Hi, I'm Ricky J from the YouTube channel At The Expedition, and today I'm going to share with you how I gained control of the memory-eating beast that is Final Cut Pro. For 6 months, I produced 2 weekly podcasts in Final Cut Pro, each about an hour long on average. I used 4 cameras, recording at 4K, another video to shoot each podcast. I've also done other various projects promoting live music and other events. I'm not claiming to be an expert. This is simply what has worked for me. My computer is a MacBook Pro with an M2 chip, 96 gigabyte, and a 4 terabyte hard drive. Even with all that memory, Final Cut Pro was utilizing it during the process. After getting over the shock of seeing my 4 terabyte being eaten away, I resolved myself to solve the problem. The suggestions I found online did not solve my memory issues. So I developed this method, and it frees up the memory I need without losing any data. First, I stopped importing my media files into Final Cut Pro. I changed the option to leave files in place, but that alone had minimal impact. The rendering Final Cut Pro was doing behind the scenes with all the 4K video was a beast, eating up the memory. So I removed all the checks from the transcode section. So you can see the import media button there. And many of you already know how to import your media, but I changed it to leave files in place from copy to library. Again, this had a minimal impact. The transcode section, I took all those checks away, and it hasn't seemed to slow any of my editing down. Just an aside, make sure you're getting the video into the place that you want to get it into. It's annoying when you get it in the wrong place. And of course, you select the files from over there. And once you're ready, you import all. So to get a handle on the size of things, you have to go over to your library and you have to check Reveal in Finder. Once you do that, you can see that in that library, I will go and get the info. So I can see it's at 1.36 terabyte is the size of that file. So then to see what's making up the size of that, you go back to the library and select Show Package Contents. Within there, you can find the file that is the largest. And this is my podcast file. I'll get info for that. And you can see it's the bulk of the size of that entire library. So I'll open that file. And now search for the file that is the largest. I know from experience that it's the rendered files. So I will get the info on that. And you can see it's the entire size of the Husker Podcast file. So opening that file, the high quality media file, which has been rendered in those rendered files, get the info for that. And it is basically taking up that entire 1.3 terabyte. So open that up and you'll see all these files. Well, you can select Command A and that will highlight all the files. You cannot just, click delete. You have to right click and select Move to Trash. And once you select Move to Trash, they will be gone and you see the file size goes to 0. And it greatly reduces the size of the podcast file. It's taken it to 0. It's certainly reduced rendered files significantly and the size of the podcast file. So you can go back and you can do that for each of the remaining files. You can get the info just to see exactly what you're taking out. and you open the file, select Command A. And again, you can't delete those. You right click and select Move to Trash. And it takes that file to 0 and it continues to reduce the rendered file size. You can do that for all 3 files in there. I sometimes do it just for a house cleaning. So as I go through each file and clear them out, I can close that file. And I see that I've reduced rendered files to 0 and close that out. I can clear out my original media. And what that will be, you'll see, is links. Since you haven't imported the media, you have all these links. And again, it's probably more of a housekeeping thing, but I like to get rid of the links and clean them out. So I go in and select those. Now within this file, there are some things that I want to save. So if you do have trailers for a podcast or intros for a podcast or different things that you want to keep, make sure you're not deleting those. But I like to get rid of all of the video links that I no longer need or was specific just for that episode. Once I've selected all those, I will right click and move to trash. And I have what I've saved, and the rest is gone. Looks a lot cleaner. You can go through and continue to clean it out with anything that you don't need, but there's obviously going to be some files that you want to save. So just make sure you're marking them well. You know what you don't want to delete. It's not a bad thing to go through and look at all of the files and look at the size of them so you can tell what's taking up the disk space. But the Husker podcast is pretty much is pretty small now. So now you're still at 57.77 gigabyte in Husker Fans in Montana. And you can see what that is. And in this case, I'm choosing to save that and hold on to it. It's a project that I'm still working on. So you can go back and do the same thing for your other libraries. Again, you're going to get info. You can see the size. I like to start with that. And then you have to show package contents. Now you're looking at the files within that library. You can go through the same way and reduce those files. So that's really it. Pretty simple. It's the process where you can go through and actually teach yourself to see what files are taking up the space on your hard drive. So after removing those files and then deleting the original video from wherever you've saved it on your computer, then delete your trash, you will have freed up a lot of your disk space on your hard drive. This allows me to work on multiple projects without worrying about running out of hard drive space. I want to stress that this is what has worked for me, given my experience. I'm sure there are others out there much more familiar with Final Cut Pro that could provide more information. So if that's you, please leave a comment. I hope this helped you tame the Final Cut Pro memory-eating beast. If it did, please subscribe to this channel as I'm trying to get to the 1,000K threshold. Cheers.